Turkey's story happened in 2002 when he was 17 years old, meaning he is currently 37 years old. He has a brother named Abdul Rahman, a year younger than him. Of course, when the story happened, Turkey's mother was still young, meaning she was just in the early 30s. I mean, she got married once when she was very young. Do you know in the past how marriages were? What respect for the legal sunnah? Their father is Saleh, who was in the late 40s and was an employee in one of the military sectors. In addition, he was diabetic. His personality was a little harsh, and sometimes he was nervous, but not all the time. No, if he was in situations that raised the pressure, he would eat you with your skin. Of course, we are residents of the eastern region, and we lived and were raised. We were born and spent all our lives there. Of course, our monastery was in the west of the south of the kingdom, and it was far from the eastern region. Why don't we reach the monastery by 900 kilometers? You can imagine the amount of fatigue in general in 1 year. We promised to our fathers if we succeeded. Of course, he bought us gifts. My brother Abdul Rahman and I were the two worst students in school. At the time, it was early 2002 to 2003. The PlayStation 1 had just been released, and we heard our friends at school saying, "My father is buying me a PlayStation 1, and whoever says he's buying me a Nokia phone," it occurred to us. A PlayStation 1, Abdul and I, our Rahman. So we worked hard at studying, Abdul Rahman and I, and we sat studying and studying and studying until we got a percentage. Sheikh, we have never gotten anything like it in our lives. We went to my father, we told him the good news, and see, my father, we succeeded. He said, "Okay, now what do you want us to buy you as gifts?" Abdul Rahman said, "By God, my father, see what comes from you, his goodness and blessings." It turned out that Abdul Rahman don't do it. The respectable boy, you see, we agreed that we want my father, by God, my father, frankly. Abdul Rahman and I agreed from the beginning that if we succeeded, but leave it as soon as the salary comes down and there is nothing left at all. In the next week, we will go to the monastery and take you to the market. Take what you want. And the salary actually went down, and we took it to the market. They also took my mother with us and bought for her. We bought a Nokia phone, and we were the happiest people on the face of the earth. But what a joy it was, not achieved in a soul. Today is noon, and we are playing PlayStation. My father said I had to leave work tomorrow morning. We will go to the monastery and arrange your things from now on, bags and everything, so we can move so-and-so in the morning. Also, like them, no one will worry about me anymore. I swear I forgot about this. My father, I swear I forgot what I removed from this. Now, I told you my father, of course, died of something called his monastery, to the point that he was submitting his resignation. He takes us to go and settle in the important monastery. The second day, early in the morning, he woke me up with a voice. My father was sitting and waking him up. "Get up, it is necessary." We walked early, we were late, and he sat down, turning off the air conditioners. He closes the windows and checks the kitchen cylinder. Then he got his car and approached it once. The gate is for us to carry the furniture, and the conditions are ours. Of course, we are arranging the furniture and carrying such and such. In the car and helping my father, I left the toys station. My truth. And how many books have such a story? I left it. On the side, I said, "Then I will put it in the bag." And I was happy I quickly got it and got into the car and opened the bag. I put it inside, and it was just me and my father at the time. The one in the car and my mother, Abdul Rahman, is still inside. The house was arranging their things, and I noticed my father. I opened the drawer in front of him, and he took out his weapon and sat down. "Clean it," and check if it contains lead or anything like that. Out of curiosity, I asked him. I told him, what about my father? You want to remove the weapon? I mean, this is the first time I said it. I see her pulling a weapon with us travelers. He said to me, my son, caution is a must, and you do not know what happens on the road. Anyway, get off now. Go with Abdul Rahman and your mother and tell them that your father says to you, hurry up. It is getting late. We want to catch up. The day, and I actually got off. I went and called them, and they were happy. Also, there are the things, and we carry them and everything. We put our trust in God. We passed by a grocery store, the neighborhood, as usual, as we do every year. We bought our stuff and stuff like that because the road is over after this part. There are no stations, no mall, no services, or anything except after 400 kilometers in a mall. Only one after the mall. This section is 500 kilometers to the city, and also apart, there is no services. And you know how the roads were in the past? Very tiring after 250 kilometers, 300 kilometers like this, in the middle of the day. We died from the heat. My mother came out to my father like this, with angry expressions, and said to him, so you're lying to me? No, I swear I won't lie to you. I didn't have time. And he pressed. He worked and I don't know what. So they started separating from each other. I am Abdul Rahman. All right, guys, pray for me. The prophet said something good happened, and it was as if we were sitting. Let's give them some food. My mother said, come on, I swear to God, let it pass. We take a break now and relax for some time in the afternoon. The weather gets cold and then we move. My father said, no. The line becomes dangerous at night, with two roads and so on. I know what my mother said, never, by God, don't pass by. The second time you didn't lie to me. You told me to leave. One of the children takes it and goes to fix it. The important thing is, we had a break. And at that time it was free. I mean, in the middle of noon and the height of summer, the day we entered, the break was like this, meaning it was cold or comfortable. He took a shower and changed, and we had lunch and drank milk. Let's see the mass coma next treachery. Imagine when we woke up at 7 o'clock. Between sunset and dinner? No. And who woke us up? The owner of the rest house knocked on the door and said, oh, my father, you told me you would go out at afternoon. Now it's 8 o'clock. May God not humiliate you. Pay for the hours. The extra, my father, there is no power nor strength except with God. Of course, he wasn't upset that he was paying for the hours. The extra, he was upset that we missed our sleep, and the road is dangerous at night. So they left, and my mother woke up. He angrily, get up, old lady, see what you did. Among us, my mother woke up, shocked. What's up, see? What time is it? Filet, my mother is going out. At what time? My father, you like. Now she said to him, okay, Abu Turki, and be patient and everything will be fine. So it's done. We'll stretch out and go tomorrow morning, he said to her. My father, I tell you, by God, I won't waste a day of my vacation except I spend it in the country. Come on, go, get dressed, your abaya, and wake up the kids, and let's go. So-and-so wants, please. It's not possible, and the road is dangerous at night, and there are roadblocks. Excuse me, your mistake is your fault. Come on, go. Do what I told you about. I'm the car because of you. And indeed, my mother came and woke us up and said, come on, my children, get up. Your father is waiting for us in the car, and he's angry. So I got up, Abdul Rahman, and we were jumping, and we were lazy. We said to him, oh, Sheikh, tell him to let's lie down. Your father is angry. He has diabetes. I swear to God, let him come in here and flog you, and your brother Abdul Rahman flog. Come on, get up quickly. get dressed. Come on, let's move. Imagine us going out like this, me and my brother Abdul Rahman and my mother going to the car. We saw the owner of the rest house talking to my father. After we got in the car, they were very close to us. So my mother lowered the car window and sat listening to them. Imagine what he was saying to my father. I mean, it was very stable. He was trying to convince my father to go until the morning and move because it is a very, very dangerous road at night. He also said to him, "You see, by God, you are the first family I have seen moving at night. I mean, it is strange. All the families always rent with me and walk in the morning." He actually wanted good for us and was looking for our benefit because, by God, what you will hear after a while and the situations that happen to us on the road will drive you crazy. My father came and said to him, "I am not convinced." My father said to her, "No, I am not convinced, and it is your fault, and it is your fault." My mother naturally calls him out, and my father is naturally nervous. So come and solve it. The important thing is that we had 3 situations, but the third and final situation I will never forget. By God, I can still hear what happened after a long distance like this. At the height of darkness, and the line was empty, Abdul Rahman asked my father to stop beside him. He was once crowded and wanted to relieve himself. My father stood beside the road and got down. Abdul Rahman was going to relieve himself after he finished, and he suddenly came back and collapsed. The first thing that Abdul Rahman collapsed was my mother. I quickly opened the door and went downstairs. I wish she had not descended, Ahmed. Oh, God, what a situation I saw, and I swear I have never forgotten it. Imagine while we were coming down, my father and we were sad and afraid. We wanted to know what was going on, but suddenly we saw my mother less than a meter before she reached Abdul Rahman. She collapsed and screamed, for every time we got closer, she and I were getting closer. Boya and my mother are screaming. I went and got out the PlayStation and everything, and we went. Where did we go? My grandmother's house. My grandmother's house was divided, and the 2 young brothers were sleeping in the boardroom. He came in and took out the screen, which was not an HD plasma screen, not the old regular TV. We took it outside into the yard and brought a chair close together and put it on the table, and he went. He also had tea and something like that. I mean, the weather was kind to us. We were sitting around playing. The important thing is that I didn't stay long. I mean, I took Jimin with him like that, and I felt like I was tired at one point because, you guys are going to travel. We keep going, and Abdul Rahman is weaker than me. He was dying from sleep. By God, we were sitting around playing with him like that, sitting pretty. When he saw us, Manas, and something like that, he said, "Boy, that's it, Tufa. Come with me." He took us and went into the room of the younger brothers as I taught you. I mean, in my grandmother's house itself, but it was a tight time, so one day Abdel Rahman and I went in. We were spoiled a little bit. We are not accustomed to sleeping under crowded conditions. But that means there was no other option to wake up dead from sleep. I swear to God, I threw myself. I don't know where I threw myself. He fell asleep. We only woke up to the sound of my mother's voice while she was sitting. We woke up for the afternoon prayer. My brother, Abdul Rahman, and I got up and performed ablution and everything. We then went outside to the courtyard, wanting to smell some of the air. We were surprised to find Nasser and 4 young men entering this and that, and I intended to be in the courtyard and sitting to get off the slip. So I asked him, meaning I said, surely on an occasion or something. But it is not reasonable for this to happen suddenly, and he did not even speak to us yesterday. So when I left, he was there, and I asked him, and also greeted the young men who were with him. I said, "Oh, Nasser, what are you sitting around doing?" He said to me, "Today is dinner, and all the sacrifices are also from me, on the occasion of your father's well-being and the well-being of all of you." After the evening prayer, they began to offer many invitations, and we began to welcome them. And their guest, while they were having coffee, also came and sat covering them with coffee. And like that, Abdel Rahman and I guys noticed something that was very strange about an old man who entered with the door. And, the determination was outside in the yard. The day he entered, he went and sat like that alone in a corner until he had coffee. The guy who we said might pass by, on him, with a cup of coffee and something like that, it means a shame in the end. A guest passes by, not as if he sees it. Of course, he entered like this, no greetings, no talking. He was coming to have dinner and going out. Abdul Rahman said, "My father, what's wrong with that?" He didn't even greet him and said something like this, and he didn't see any man in front of him. I said, "Uncle, this is forbidden for you. This is the face of someone being blamed. The important thing is that dinner time has come and we have arranged the dinner. Please, may God bless you, men." And that's it. We put down the dishes. But he didn't get up and sit in his place in the corner. By God, guys, you can't imagine how much it broke my mind. Don't you treat men like this? Dog. What, except Nasser got a small plate and scooped it from the same plate that Abdul Rahman and I were sitting to eat from, and my father and I, my brother Abdul Rahman Watt, left. We were shocked, guys, at dealing with a louse for so long. What did we do? We removed the plate rightfully and went to sit with him. I wish we were good people. We did not sit with the smell of it. Rotten, rotten. Literally, the dress, guys. The one who is wearing it is very strong and dirty. He is inclined to wear clothes. Now, be free of all of this. Abdel Rahman and I walked through it until we went out ourselves. After he finished dinner, he was full, and his stomach was full. He got up. May God honor you. Me, I don't know why he came in the first place with flip-flops. He put the flip-flops on his hand, took the crutch off, and started walking barefoot. It was 12 o'clock, and the mourners began to leave the courtyard one by one, and so. When the courtyard was not completely empty, we remained, but me, my father, and my brother Abdel Rahman, and Nasser. Me and my brother Abdel Rahman went to Nasser's. At length, we said to him, "Sorry, Nasser, what deal are you going to make with the old man?" He said to me, "What are you talking about? What did you say? What are you dealing with? Why do you go and give him a plate alone like this while he is sitting there poor? Why don't you welcome him at all? For God's sake, remove the furniture, but let's go." I said, "Nasser, do you think this thing is not really worth it? By God, what are you doing? Why are you dealing with him like this, brother? By God," the poor old man said to me, "by God, since your grandfather has been talking now, you don't know who this is." I said, "No, by God, I don't know who Abdul Rahman is." "Do you know who he is?" He said to me, "No, none of us know." He said, "Go ask your father." We went to my father, Abdul Rahman, and he asked us. We told him, "My father, the old man who entered like this, I don't know how." We felt that he was a stranger, and no one gave him attention. "Who is that?" "Come on, guys, listen." The shock. He said, "This is your grandfather, my father. Are you serious or not? What's wrong with that? He's changed." My father said, "Yes, by God. You don't know anything about the old man. He's had all the illnesses, And the last time he had a stroke and didn't want to get up from it. And now we're acting shocked. He'll definitely change. We said, I'm Abdul Rahman. No, there is no power or strength except with God. May God heal him, O Lord, my father said in a low voice like this. May God not heal you, O Sheikh. I wish he had not gotten up after the stroke. We were shocked. Abdul Rahman, oh, him. I mean, why? Everyone is treating him like this. What did he do? Of course, guys, this old man, it is not my grandfather. I mean, he is not my father's father, so he should be my uncle. My father, who is my father's father, is my grandfather. May God have mercy on him. No, and not just that. I mean, my father's father, who is my grandfather, may God have mercy on him. This old man will become brothers from breastfeeding, and even not for sure. The important thing is, of course, that we in the monastery do not have a house of our own. So my father used to take us to the house, my grandfather, may God have mercy on him, and we live in it. Until the vacation ends, after that, he takes us and we go back to the eastern side, of course, the location of my grandfather's house. It was in a scary place, guys. Once upon a time, imagine that there is a cemetery on the edge of the valley, and next to it, to the point that my brother Abdul Rahman and I, sometimes when we open the windows, by God, you guys, it overlooks the valley directly, and the valley, guys, is good. It's just dark, and you hear the sounds of dogs, and you hear the sounds of frogs and crickets at night. Once upon a time, it was a scary thing. No, and next to the house, as I also taught you, directly in a cemetery. You know, that means that the valley and the cemetery are all residences and homes for paradise. I seek refuge in God. This is the main reason that he used to leave us alone in the monastery, which was my grandfather's house, of course, because, as I taught you, he was my grandfather's foster brother, so they lived in the same house. The important thing is that after 2 days, my father's health improved, thank God, and he saw that our presence, meaning in my aunt's and grandmother's house, was like that, which was unnecessary, meaning the house was small and cramped. He fell asleep and said, "Put your things in order so we can go to your grandfather's house." This is the moment that Abdul Rahman and I were not hoping for. We said to him, "Okay, my father. I mean, what's the problem if we live in my grandmother's house and you? I mean, I want you to have a room outside by yourself and feel comfortable. I don't see that he's in trouble." He said, "No, that's it. Arrange your things as you are. I spoke to you and between you and me in the first place. Your mother spoke to me while we were going out and we were sitting and looking for things and such. Suddenly Nasser came and it was almost 8 o'clock at the time, and he said that it was no use for you to walk now and like that. Okay, my mother had packed dinner, so come down and let us talk. They had dinner and everything, and then we went down. But when all my family got out, I stayed in the car. Nasser came